So today I want to talk about the 2017 film Good Time. And, really quick, because I reviewed this film a couple of years ago, but, I've gotten older and wiser, so I definitely want to give this film another review, like, after, watching it, like, 5 years ago. And to me, this is one of the greatest films ever made, and it's definitely one of the best, like, it was definitely one of the best drama films out there, and then drama thriller films. And I would also even call it like a psychological thriller because the main character Connie, really just being a sociopath and also being a narcissist, but in the end, just changing in some areas. But I really think that that this film was done very, very well in a lot of different areas. And this is also done by the Sadafi brothers. And, they're known for a couple of things. That they did a film called Daddy Long's Legs, Heaven Knows What. They did Uncut Gems. And a lot of people were upset with Uncut Gems because, people felt that Adam Sandler deserved his first Oscar nomination. And it was one of those films that, like House of Gucci last year, where it should have been nominated, but it didn't. And we also kind of know with Oscar politics, if you have an actor like Adam Sandler who does a lot of raunchy comedies, and he makes a lot of money with those films, they would kind of not want him to be nominated for an Oscar because they would probably say, well, he's too lowbrow or whatever in his career, or they want him to encourage what's going to be making him money. So unfortunately, it was a bit of a political decision, and unfortunately, when he did Uncut Gems, he didn't get the nominations that he deserved. But I digress. I think that Good Times is possibly their best film, in my opinion. And it also really shows their signature style very well. So the Sadafi brothers are known for a few things. They're known for 1-0-Tricks Point Never, which is a musician that uses like techno. So it gives the movie a lot of energy with his electronica and techno music. He was actually he actually won like best musical performance in a movie for this film at the Cannes Film Festival. They're also known for their cinematography because they use a lot of like neons and fluorescent colors, and they also do a lot of handheld shots and then long shots. And then they're also really good about like having some scenes that are very like are very handheld, and then also some scenes where they use tripod shots and zooms and other things like that. So they kind of like pick and choose what works. It's not like a Stanley Kubrick film where there's a lot of just there's a lot of like these very beautiful like handheld or zoom outs or dolly shots or whatever. There's because in Kubrick's film he does a lot of just trying to make it look beautiful, whereas in this film they just pick and choose which scene needs to kind of show a tranquility, and then there are scenes that have to show some chaos. And the third thing that they're known for is casting non-actors, which adds a level of realism. And then also too that they have like when characters are speaking, sometimes you hear dialogue on top of dialogue. So a bunch of different conversations happening at one time, or even something like where you take all the conversations, you put it in the editing room, and you kind of have it overlap, but you do it in a way where it actually works very, very strongly. And usually they set their projects in New York City. Obviously, New York is a very good area because there's so much diversities of people and cultures, and a gradient of people with, who are doing well and not doing well. There's a gradient of people like who, everybody has mental health issues. There's people with mental health issues that are living in extremes and doing extremes to their lives. And then there's people with mental health issues, because we all have mental health issues, that are doing very well for themselves and are functional members of society. But what I would kind of say is that to start the film, to talk about it, the film was about these two brothers. One is played by Benny Sadafi, and was played by Robert Patterson. If I'm saying his name, Robert Peterson or Robert Patterson, but Benny Sadafi, he plays like this bigger brother. Yeah, he plays like the older brother. Like he's kind of big, husky, but he's mentally handicapped. So he is easily followed by his brother Connie to just commit an to help him to be with him while he commits an armed robbery, and then also too like he's easily manipulated by his brother while he's trying to get mental health help, and but mostly the story is about like Connie, because what happens is that after they commit a robbery that ends in failure. He's trying to avoid the police. He tries to break his brother out of prison, but he ends up getting the wrong person. And when there was a prisoner in the hospital, he ends up getting the wrong person, thinking that it's his brother. And it's just a wild night that kind of goes from him, just abusing people and manipulating person after manipulating person to get what he wants. And spoiler alert, in the end of the film, he ends up back in jail. And they also cut to his brother at the end of the film just to show you how he's doing. So there's a lot of different themes in this. I think the first theme that I would talk about, and some of the people have talked about in this film, is just showing how bad a character Connie is, because I think some people have said that he's either a sociopath, he's either a narcissist. He does a lot of horrible things in the film, obviously he's manipulating his brother who has a mental handicap. He's definitely a very compulsive liar, and he also there's one scene where he tries to have sex with a 16-year-old girl because they show his face on the news, so he just kisses her and takes her out of the room just to have sex with her, just to kind of be I want to distract you so you don't look at the news. And then also he ends up getting a couple of people either killed or almost killed. And I think one of the points to try to show you at the end of the film is that there's somebody who dies at the end of the film, and it's because it's related to Connie, but then they show the brother in a psychiatric ward getting he's in group therapy sessions, and he's getting better and better, and he's with his mother who actually cares about him and takes care of him and grooms him, and he's healed from his wounds from getting put in prison or whatever. So they're trying to show you what type about what Connie is that he represents people who are very destructive and end up destroying everything around him. And sometimes they will also want to have a film have a positive ending and kind of showing what a bad influence he is. So I think that it's good that at the end of the film, Connie goes back to jail, but Connie also says enough to say, it wasn't my brother, it was me. So his brother gets the help that he needs. And the other thing that I think it shows is that, again, there are people, unfortunately, that manipulate relatives or other people with mental handicaps to do horrific crimes or be accomplices or be there, but they fail to realize the danger and the chaos that they're bringing their family members into. So that's all definitely a huge theme, is about how people with mental handicaps can be manipulated, and just how dangerous, family members can be. I think the other theme is also just, just what type of person Connie is, in the sense that he's very manipulative and he's very narcissistic, and he doesn't have a mentality of, I have to judge my wrongs, or look at the wrongs that I'm doing, look how it impacts people, look at how I'm an asshole. He doesn't really have that. And I think in the end of the day, people who live their lives like that, they're not really happy, and they end up just, always getting in a deeper and deeper hole. There's a sense of what happens when you don't take accountability for your life. And I've definitely worked around people in my life that have mental illness or in psychiatric wards, and I think that one theme about the people who do assaults or stay there long term is that they're the people that don't take accountability, that don't want to grow, that want to just either not have the humility to look at their own problems, and they end up just being there long term, or they end up just kind of keep coming back over and over, or they just end up getting out of the program and then never coming back, and then they just live a life of consistently getting into very serious trouble every couple of years. And I want to just say, personally, just I've definitely lived a life where I've definitely got myself into some trouble many times, either at work or in other parts of my life. But I also kind of just understand too that, when I watch a film like this, it is kind of a wake-up call to say, if you're that person who can't be humble to say, you are the problem in a lot of situations, and you almost live a life of trying to get away with whatever, or manipulating people, or using people and abusing people, and not realizing the damage that you do to other people, it never ends well. I have a former friend who's a filmmaker in Wallingford, Connecticut. That I just don't like as a person, but he was a big user. And I remember like one time I worked for him, and he kind of said something to me like, do you want to work for me and learn some skills, or do you want to be a fucking shitty filmmaker? Nothing in your fucking life has ever been a good film. And I've seen him kind of. Then after working with him for like 9 months, he kind of was like saying, people use you more than you think. And he was grinning and kind of smirking. And he's done a bunch of things where he kind of like will do that, where he's just the asshole to who he can be an asshole to, and then he's also friendly to who he can be friendly to. And I've seen like how over time he's somebody who can't hold his temper, so he kind of just causes drama, and then he has people on his project that cause drama. He's really concerned about just having all hands on deck to get something done, even if it's manipulating people or whatever, and then try and come off like the good guy, like he's the big old helper. But I think over time, he's lost some success because people just kind of figure out that he's just not a good guy, and he really needs to work on his narcissism. And I think for me, there's been times in my life too that I wish I was in a relationship. I wish I could have been more successful as a filmmaker. I wish that I could be wealthy. I wish that I could do a lot of different things, but I've lied to myself many times about like the person that I am. I'm somebody who has a Uber Eats addiction. I am somebody, when I was younger, I was very socially awkward. I was misdiagnosed with autism, but I never had the humility to go on YouTube and learn like how to connect with people. And then also, even though I've been through some rough things in my life, like being adopted out of an abusive relationship, growing up with people that I thought were very emotionally abusive and manipulative, and also having a brother that just had mental health issue with inappropriate behavior. There's a lot of heavy shit that I've had to process and deal with in my life. But I think what I've learned the past year and a half since I started my new job is that it doesn't matter what you're going through in life. You have to be a decent human being, and it doesn't mean. And I had to learn the hard lesson. It doesn't mean that when I've seen a therapist and other people for mental health issues to be a better person, the lesson isn't, well, I have to be an upstanding citizen and everybody else can be an asshole to me. Ultimately, I meet people who are assholes to me, but I can't say, well, because they're being an asshole to me, I have to still have the humility to work on myself, and then I'll find the people who are not the assholes and go forward. But I think that, really, that, there's a lot of just things about my life that I definitely want to make a lot better. And things are getting better for me. I have fear of driving. I'm thinking about taking driving classes. I've left some friends at my former job who used to bitch and moan all day. I'm having fruit smoothies. I have some credit card debt, and and yesterday, I set up a plan to pay off an $800 card. I took my $800 credit card, put it in my brother's shredder. And every credit card that I pay off, I'm gonna put it in a shredder. So I'm not gonna keep paying it off and then just filling it up. So I'm taking a lot of things are changing for my life for the better because I take responsibility for who I want to be as a person. And I think ultimately it's like Connie and his brother. I don't remember his name, but the thing is that you see the roads. Connie will never take responsibility for his actions, and he's always going to be in prison. But at the end of the film, they give you some hope that he takes accountability and puts the blame on the crimes that he committed on himself and not his brother. So maybe he will learn from his mistakes. And, maybe after a 10-year, 20-year sentence, he could be somebody Jay Williams, who does Let Lives What Life, a Peas guy, or somebody like Big Herc on Prison Talk, two YouTubers who serve time and then they talk about their experiences, and now they're very successful because I think they both have that lesson of, I fucked up. That's not who I want to be. And with Jay Williams, he has a family, so he knew that all of his bad behavior was just making him look bad and making his son look bad. So he He's worked hard on changing his life. So, definitely your choices and your lack of humility or having humility can really affect your universe. And that just means the people around you that you love and care about. And I've seen like how my actions have, hurt people, and how my actions have helped people. And then also just, people who have been hurt by me long term mentally, and then there's people like who have been helped by me long term mentally. That's part of the being alive, is that we just do damage to people and we heal people, but we should always work on being the healers. Because I've been through some situations where I've not been the best person, and I have a goal of working 12,000 hours at the hospital that I work at, and this month I'm gonna be close to accomplishing my 4,000 hours. Into that. So I have 8,000 hours more goal to go, and that's 10,000. No, that's 1,000 shifts. So I have 1,000 shifts to work to make up my redemption. But I know that when I work at the hospital that I'm working at, I'm cleaning, I'm cleaning, I'm doing extra work. I'm not sitting on my ass. I'm doing all that I can to just help out. And sometimes, there's some free time because it is an intensive job. But I'm happy that through that process, of helping other people, saying, what, I need to start making some redemption for the things I've made. I've made my life better. I made the lives of other people better. And that's not me being narcissistic, because every time you clean and do a good job, that's somebody's life that's saved. That's somebody who has some positive energy in their body, saying, what, somebody cares about me. They don't see me as as an animal that needs to live in my filth. So I just want to kind of say those things. And I also want to say that on a personal note, when I think of a film like Good Times, it's one of those things they say about movies. You watch it every couple of years, you learn something different. And I think that, when I see Good Times, I think that it weirdly resonates with you, because I think in some sense we've all been that. We've all been a Connie. We've all been that person that, most of the time when we're kids, we lie to get what we want. We try to be a schemer. We try to be a hustler, because sometimes that's the easiest thing to do. And then there are things like he does, like where he tries to get all the money that he wants, tries to get all the sex that he wants. He commits crimes and he tries to get away with it. Sex, things that you want, and that could be illegal substances or not illegal substances, and then also getting away with it. Those are all like bad vices of a human being. And Connie is definitely one of the extremes of that. But ultimately, living your life as a Connie will never end well. And I think if you have the humility to learn from his mistakes, and then also like you see his brother, who in the beginning of the film was like, what, Connie's the only person that loves me. He's going to take me down to Virginia and do all those things. Over time, he's learned that that's not true. It's actually his grandmother that loves him. It's actually his psychiatrist who loves him enough to take care of him, and then also just make sure that he doesn't get killed in prison, more so in the way that Connie would have done. Because if Connie got him out of jail easily, his brother could have been that person too, that got himself killed at the end of the film. So, I think Good Times is very, very reflective. It's a very thematic movie about, just the impact you have, not just on your life, but other people's lives. And sometimes when you try to get away with something, or you create a lot of chaos, it's so easy to be focused on you and you trying to get out of trouble, either the right way or the unethical way, most times unethical, and not realizing the other damages that you're causing. And that's not fun. I think that, I want to give you guys maybe another example. That, I remember like when I grew up, there was one time when I was a kid, and what happened was my grandmother, I had a baptism, and then I also had a grandmother that had like a lot of like change and whatever. So, what happened was that my dad kind of said, like, all the money you were getting for your baptism, you're not going to get any of it. He said maybe a part of it, but then he changed my mind and said, you're not getting any of it. We're putting it in the college fund. And I remember me and my brother getting mad about that. And then also, like, we're both in our 30s now. My brother never went to college. I did go to college, but I also remember, like, when I was a kid, like, my dad was going to do that with his jars of money that my grandmother wanted me and my brother to have to spend on ourselves. And I remember like sneaking into my parents' like bedroom as a kid and just taking some coins over and over. And I remember like when I got found out, I was supposed to be lying about it because, first of all, I didn't want to tell them the truth, which was, you know what, the reason why I'm taking that money is because Grandma said it was for me, and also I'm mad at you guys because each time you ask Matt, my older brother, for laundry quarters, you never pay him back. You know, you guys are people who make $100,000 a year or whatever, and you can't pay back $20 to your 13-year-old son. You know, what's up with that? And then I think the other thing is that it was almost Christmas time. So I think that, so what happened was my parents just thought about saying, okay, well, I'm going to call everybody up, and nobody's going to have Christmas this year, and your little brother, he's not going to have his first Christmas because of you lying about it. But so I compulsively lied. And I remember, like, you know, after a couple hours of being asked the same question, they kind of just gave up. And then they just kind of said, okay, from now on, whatever money you have, we're holding on to and whatever. But I could not tell them the truth. And I think that, you know, I've said this in other videos that I was misdiagnosed with autism. And I remember, like, reading, like, a evaluation that I got in high school. And it said that, you know, compulsively lies, and compulsively steals. But I remember like how I got furious when I read that because I was saying that was the only time I ever stole something. And that is true in my life. That was the only time I ever stole something. And I remember being furious reading it because there were some other just things that upsetted me. Like my person gave me the evaluation saying, you know, well, this guy is a handsome African American. He's a polite African American. He's a beautiful African American. He's polite to me, this African American. But I think when I read that in high school, because I was over 18, I'm allowed to read that, I was like, you know, wow, that one thing, you know, that one incident kind of made my parent, when they interviewed my parents, without my permission, when they interviewed my parents to do that evaluation, they got something that was really, really inaccurate. But I also kind of understand, too, that, you know, even though I was afraid to tell the truth because I know my parents were people that would flip out and throw furniture when they get upset. I know, like, one time, you know, like, I'm starting to go off tangent, but I know, like, one time, me and my brother were roughhousing. I took it to another level. One of my dads trashed the house. He kicked me out for a couple hours, and he almost hit me with a vacuum cleaner. But, so I always kind of grew up in that type of, you know what, you can't tell the truth because your parents will flip the fuck out. But I understand that, you know, and their mentality's always been, you know, you got me to that point of overreaction. But I think that what I'm trying to say is that all that in that incident where I did take them the money and whatever, even though I was afraid to tell the truth, even though I was kind of angry about being let down about my baptism, even though I was angry about them just never paying my brother back, and even though you know, I felt like I was Robin Hood by just trying to get what we were owed. You know, I was a kid in middle school. I should have just understand life isn't fair. And then the other thing that I would kind of say is that, you know, I could have ruined my brother's Christmas. That whole night where it was going to be a good night. We're going to go out to a restaurant, whatever. And now that didn't happen. I caused that. So a lot of just bad things happened because I wanted to feel self-righteous about taking money and not understanding that, okay, you know, well, you're a kid. You can't always get what you want. And sometimes that happens in life where parents change their mind. And sometimes, you know, you will have parents that, you know, you lend them money and they don't pay you back because they're either too busy or whatever. So again, it was like a Connie incident. You know, I ruined everybody's night. I could have ruined my brother's first Christmas, and all because I wanted to get away, and all because I didn't have the humility to say, well, this is why I took it, this is why I did it, and even if my parents overreacted and didn't care, or they did care, I still had to just be humble and say, you know what, I got into my feelings, and that's why I did it, and I'm not going to do that again. But you know, it always comes down to like the message of good time, which is, you know, that whenever you behave like a criminal and you try to get away with it, you end up bringing a whole world of chaos into your life and then the lives of other people. So, you know, that's one of the things that I remember of my childhood. I don't remember a lot of good things, because there's a lot of really just bad intensities. But I also kind of understand there are things like that it was a problem that I caused and it hurt other people. And easily my parents could have done something like, we could have just, since you gave some money to your brother, you know, like he has to, all of his money has to go to my dad, and he has to kind of like monitor how we spend it and whatever. So, I just think that, I just kind of think that, you know, when I look at a film like Good Time as I'm getting older, it's just a reminder to always be on the good path. And ultimately, if you fuck up, the best thing to do is just stop what you're doing, take accountability for your actions. Like I learned a couple of years ago, which is, you know, getting into trouble and causing problems. It's just like gambling. You know, count your losses and stop what you're doing, and then ultimately you're going to build some wealth after that. The same way when you're doing something bad and you're causing chaos and you're causing destruction, you know, stop what you're doing, count your losses, and just live the best life possible and do the right thing. Because at the end of the day, every single time you do something bad, you're just playing a gamble of getting into, you know, a King Kong level of bullshit that you don't want. And I've been there, and I'm done living a life of just living a life like Connie, where, you know, I'm having pressure in my chest and pain and just anxiety, and then also not realizing the people that I'm hurting and betraying. It's not a life that you want to live, and I'm done living that life. But when I watch Good Times, that's the main message I get out of it. And I'm very open about sharing about my past and what this film means to me, because I want to save other people from making bad choices and causing other chaos and hurting themselves through chaos. And I'll say this as the last thing. One of the reasons why I got myself in a lot of trouble is because I hated myself. I had low self-esteem. Even though I dealt with emotional abuse, there was a point in me having to understand, and bullying, there's a point in me that I didn't understand and take responsibility for my own actions whenever I'm down in the dumps and feel low enough in myself to make bad choices. Always feel good about yourself. And also, too, that always feel good about yourself and always just understand that, you know, if you're causing chaos or you're hurting people, take accountability for that shit. And understand that, you know, you have a lot of power to make somebody's life better or a lot worse, directly or indirectly. So that's the message of Good Times. And I'm happy to review this. Really great cinematography, really great editing, really great directing, very good casting, choreography, very, very thematic. And I also think, like, with the millennial culture that we have of people like on their phones, or this lack of taking accountability and entitlement, I think this film could be also be seen as an allegory for like modern problems of, you know, this entitlement culture. And also this culture of, you know, how we're on our phones, or sometimes we do chaos or whatever. And sometimes we focus on being the victim instead of just being, or entitled, instead of just taking accountability for the damage that we're causing. So I think this film is just also reflective of, you know, the dangers of our society. You know, take responsibility for yourself. And then you won't be like a Connie in Good Time. So, you know, this is a good movie. Transcendent.